episode of Behind the Games. I am your host, newdrone001, and with me today we have NPCs Tyrbloodz and KTV. I'm not sure if either of you care. I will likely end up slipping up and just using names at some point, but neither of whom have really been on this iteration of the show as guests. I think Tyr, you stopped by when I was with Kyle and Lainey one time, but I didn't really prepare for you.
Mm-hmm.
So first, let me start by saying it's great to have both of you on here finally, and thanks for coming. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Had an interesting weekend, but otherwise, just a rather chillaxed time.
Doing okay. A little tired, but that's what
Holidays
happens
last week, we're recovering.
that's what happens when working in a corporate world.
Um, so yeah, glad you guys are doing okay. I'm gonna get right into it. I think I mentioned to you guys beforehand. These were a little bit of different questions. Tyr, you've obviously had some scheduling issues and other things that happened that are no longer actually playing in any of these, and Kevin, you are only in Dickus. Other than that, you do a lot of the tech stuff, so I'm going to talk about that a bit. But I want to start with you, Kevin, since you're currently in Dickus, and then we'll flip over for a question or two. You've actually been with us in Dickus since the beginning. We've added quite a few people at this point. I think Dan Can, Forma, and Laney were all added at some point, right?
Daniel was there with us from the start.
Was he?
Yes.
Oh, you're
Dicketh-
right. I was
Dicketh
thinking of
was-
Horde. Yeah, Dicketh was with Elzan in the beginning. You're right.
Yeah, Dicketh was a hermit that you guys picked up somehow, some way, some form.
I was teaching him magic. But I don't know how much of the show previous episodes you've tuned in or caught. But I did ask Kyle a few weeks ago, because it's a thing I've done with everyone who's had multiple characters. I've talked about Elzan a lot. But I want to give you the opportunity, just like I did Kyle, because he didn't have a ton to expand on, and I know that you get really into your characters. So if you maybe wanted to talk a bit about like Rolling Thunder and who they were as a character before we move on to current things, just because we've talked about them recently, and neither me or Kyle really know a ton about Thunder. I said Thunder and Elzan were kind of clashing a lot, it felt like.
Kind of. So Rolling Thunder was actually kind of a character that I created right off, like kind of on the spur of the moment. Jelenif was actually the original character I thought of, but when we started, besides Alcazar,
That's true. I forget. That's true. I'll add that to your next question, Tyr. I do forget that you technically were with us in the beginning, and your schedule didn't work out, and we could not stand that character.
so Rolling Thunder is, for those who don't, well, because we don't have this on stream. So Rolling Thunder is a crap. What is that race called?
Not Khajiit, that's Skyrim. Tabaxi.
No, Tabaxi. Yeah. So Rolling Thunder was a Tabaxi paladin, and I'm as a player really enjoy taking a class and doing what people don't want to do with that class or think is the stupidest thing you can do with the class. I'm like, I'll do it. So Rolling Thunder is a dexterity based paladin. I believe I made my strength actually the
Dump stat?
The dump stat. Yeah,
I think you didn't even have the strength that you could wear heavy armor.
Yeah, I think her strength. I think Rolling Thunder's strength was 8. like it was just the dump stat. Just because I thought it would be fun to create a dexterity based paladin, just because it's so different, and people tend to like follow certain kind of templates. So I made Rolling Thunder completely different from all of that.
Did you focus charisma still, or did you go all in on the dex?
So dex was the highest stat, followed by con, and then charisma.
So AC and health tank.
Yeah, AC, health tank, with and so then that way the medium armor really gave me where all that buff came from.
Yeah.
So Rolling Thunder, I don't remember what my full backstory was, but the idea of Rolling Thunder was that Rolling Thunder was essentially an orphan of a sense. That's why that orphanage inside of that first town was so important to Rolling Thunder, because kind of the place that, like, it wasn't so much that Rolling Thunder grew up there, but Rolling Thunder recognized it for what it was, because she's a Tabaxi, she's from a whole different culture. She recognized what that was, an orphanage, and so this place apparently that is surrounded by all of these weird ass dungeons and giant snail needed protection for the most part. So Rolling Thunder, who is a protection paladin for the most part, decided to sit here and do her best to try, like, raise money and like try to protect the orphanage and that kind of stuff. So Rolling Thunder was actually background wise was a urban bounty hunter. So, like, she went around, she hunted people down for money that all went back to the orphanage to try and
Okay.
keep the place running, to keep the kids going, and that's where that whole protector sense really started to come in for a bit. Um, and I think the reason why Rolling Thunder had such a clash with Elzan was because Elzan was very neutral, chaotic neutral type character.
I think I had him technically as lawful neutral because he did have his code, which was power is all that matters.
Right. And so for Thunder, it was all about keeping people together, making sure that nobody dies, and making sure that Thunder's going to be the first person in line to take the damage if possible. It just happened to turn out that Thunder got hit by her own teammate.
That's not how Thunder died.
I know, but if I remember correctly, the first fight we got into, Thunder ran in as a protector, and then you came up right behind Thunder and hit me with
Burning hands, probably.
burning hands. Yeah, with a cone.
I mean, if I remember, I think you had gotten surrounded, didn't you?
No, the Kobos were sitting behind like a barricade, throwing shit at us.
I thought I stepped in front of you. But yeah, because
You
I was like,
you
well,
you
I have
misjudged
nothing
you
that's
misjudged the
going to
cone
hit
that
them.
hit just on the side of it.
Um,
But yeah, no, Rolling Thunder was just it was on of a spur moment of a character to make. Really wasn't much into, like, I didn't really have much built into a backstory besides the fact that Rolling Thunder was this character who saw this orphanage, recognized what it was, saw that this town needed protection because this is a not the town wasn't really poor, but it was like not a fully developed town.
it
So,
was
like, the
it
fact
was
that
a
you have
town. Like they function, but they don't function on like currency.
right, exactly. So when you have an orphanage inside of this tiny town, it's not gonna survive. It's not gonna do well. Like, they'll get by, which is really not what you want for
But they're
kids.
getting what everyone can afford to just give away instead of trading with their neighbor.
Right, right. So like Thunder took on that role of trying to be this provider for the kids and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it was interesting.
And what's up, Forma? Thanks for stopping by. We were just talking about some of the original characters that are no longer with Dicketh's band. I did have one other question. How was transitioning from Thunder to Jellenith? I know I made a pretty big jump. I went from Elzan the Wizard to Kovash the Barbarian. I'm curious if there were any challenges you came across that like you didn't expect, being that both Paladin and Ranger are half quarter cast or whatever. Was there
So
anything interesting about that?
I actually prefer half casters. I really like the idea of half casters. The idea of, like, being this physical person or melee person with a magic to kind of buff you up on the backside when you need it. Um, so the idea of Jellenif actually was something I've been playing around with for close to about a year. Um, about a year, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I don't remember. Um, One of my friends came up and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to try Tomb of Horrors? They updated it for fifth edition," and I'm like, "Sure." I hated Tomb of Horror because it's the worst dungeon you can ever go into.
Steve refuses to play it. Thanks. Welcome to chat, by the way.
That main hallway in Tomb of Horror is literally 50 different traps. It's real dumb. I hate it.
Good
But
luck finding that first hallway.
yeah, but Jelenoff actually originated from that character that I was trying out with, which was originally a half orc ranger. And again, it came down to the idea of, like, I want to play a character that people will hate to try and play because it doesn't go with the template or the design of the character. So I wanted to play a melee ranger. A lot of people tend to go range with the ranger and
Yeah.
whatnot. So if you remember correctly, I originally started out with
Your
Jelenoff being a
double-bladed.
guardian. Yeah, so melee wise.
double-bladed, yeah.
Yeah, so Jelenoff originally originated from a half orc ranger that I created over a year ago, and then, um, after that little one shot of Tomb of Horrors that I did, I readjusted it and kind of buffed it up. Not buffed it up, but I kind of changed it up a bit. I also hated to use Hunter's Mark. I loathe Hunter's Mark.
And I feel like they made it really rough in 5th edition because isn't Hunter's Mark an action?
No, it's a bonus action.
Okay.
It's a bonus action.
What am I thinking of? There's something that they made an action that functions almost exactly like Hunter's Mark.
So there is Flame Arrow. So you enchant a quiver, and so any arrow you pull out of it will be flame enchanted. That is an action, but what you have to realize that Flame Arrow is also a spell that a wizard or a sorcerer can learn, so they can just enchant a bunch of different quivers, and everybody else can use it.
The wizard walking down the line of guards on the wall, enchanting all their arrows so they can ignite the oil that they poured on. Yeah.
But like outside of that, I hate being stuck inside of like a template. So like everyone's like, "Oh, if you're a ranger, you gotta pick Hunter's Mark," and I said, "Fuck you, Hunter's Mark." And so the best way to get around it is to just go with a melee character, because melee's characters don't benefit from Hunter's Mark. Well, really, I mean they can, but like it's pretty useless because you're in melee combat and you're gonna be constantly hit at, so you constantly have to worry about that concentration check then.
It's interesting you say that though, because I feel like every ranger I build, I inevitably try to go melee because of like Drizzit.
Is Drizzit a ranger?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a ranger barbarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hunter was.
Oh, that's great.
The hunter. Was, I believe the hunter was a couple levels in his barbarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he only has like a couple levels in barbarian, but he learned to unleash his primal rage in that time.
Because he was kind of like a necromancer for a while too in the books. I don't know about in the D&D stuff, but like
far.
Because in the Dark Elf trilogy, he's somewhat of a necromancer.
That's not really true. I think that was just like the inherent drow magic. Like we don't ever see him bring anyone back from the dead or do any necromancy.
I know, but like he does a lot of necrotic magic and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think that was mostly his drow magic because he went to the fighter school. So I think if I remember, I think he's got a couple levels fighter too. Because I think he started fighter. Because remember, in those editions, you had to do fighter so far before you could go ranger.
Yeah, because you had requirements before you can multi-class into another class.
Yeah.
I mean, we still technically have that, but they're way less than they were before.
Yeah, it's now essentially second level.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, no, you have to be a level 5 fighter before you could take one level in ranger.
Right. So originally, Jelenoff was this half-orc character, but then when I told Kyle about this backstory I have for the half-orc, this idea of this half-orc being a character created from a so there's actually another town close to where we started this campaign in.
Yeah.
That is constantly raided and like attacked by orcs, and I wanted this ranger character to be this half-orc character to be like a child from that village who was due to like a rape incident where like one of the villagers was raped by an orc, and then this child was born, and so this child like became a ranger.
Wasn't really accepted in the town.
Yeah, wasn't accepted in the town because it was like, this half orc. So this half orc became a ranger, spent most of the time in the woods, and from there learned how to forage and how to hunt, and then was like realized, I could make this into a business. So originally the half orc, this ranger was like, I'm gonna go around, I'm a forge for things, I take on missions to make money that people want me to gather. I'm a what is it?
Gatherer?
What is the actual term for it?
Hunter-gatherer?
A gatherer, yeah. It was like some kind of a retriever. That's what it was. So like originally was a retriever. The idea was you take on a mission to go retrieve an item or find something and then bring it back for selling and whatnot.
And then
just because.
and then at some point someone's like, "Hey, go get this item. It's in this dungeon. And you're like, that's
Right.
not really what I meant. I meant like, I can get you a rare flower or something.
Right. And so that was actually the original idea behind this ranger. And then after talking with Kyle, I decided not to do this half-orc character just because I didn't want to have the idea of rape be such a huge concept in a
Yeah.
long-term campaign. Uh, so Jelena got turned into an elf, and
That was...
let me say, I hate elves. I loathe elves. Like, the reason why is because everybody wants to play an elf, and I'm like, why? They're so overrated. But elves were the only race that could work for this idea of the double-bladed scimitar, because that
Yeah.
doesn't really exist
Yeah.
in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
And so I had a huge talk with Kyle about how to allow Valinor elves in this campaign,
Yeah.
because they exist in Colvare.
Yeah.
And so coming up with this whole backstory of how like Jalnef managed to fall through a rift and traverse different worlds and that kind of stuff. So like when you guys first met Jalnef really was
You didn't...
Jalnef's been
You
been in
didn't want
Forgotten
to try
Realms.
like the Horizon Walker or anything with her for that? The one that's like all about hopping to different planes and stuff?
No, because she doesn't want to. So the idea she didn't want to hop. That was kind of an accident that occurred.
That's fair.
So the way like she's only been in Forgotten Realms for about like 3 months before she met you guys.
That makes things make sense.
Yeah,
and
so like
helps
so
me
she has
understand both Thunder and Jelnith better.
yeah, because Jelnif has no understanding of really the Forgotten Realms much, and so like in the last episode you remember me mentioning that like, man, how do you guys get around places without trains? And you guys are like, what are trains?
I was gonna say, is Corvair like an Eberron or something?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Corvair is the continent on the world of Eberron, so like everything
Okay.
there is like technology
Yeah,
magic. So like
steampunk.
trains exist and that kind of stuff. Like it's a fun time, and I love the world of Eberron, just because like you get to mess around with technology-based magic things.
I
And
would have loved Laney's last campaign. But I do want Tyr to talk a bit about Elzikar now that I remember Elzikar
Oh
existed.
God, do we really got to bring him back?
you had one line. That's all you said as Alcazar.
Well,
I know.
you did say like you were doing like was it Groot? Oh no, it was like a Pokemon. And I think that's ultimately what it was just like the pitch and volume that you made it. Like if you had made it like Groot, where you like just said your name and that was how you communicated, I think it was whatever, but it was like high pitched and loud.
I did it like that for at the original early parts, and didn't do so later, but has been reminded of it every step of the way, even though he's long
I
and
only
gone.
remember you being there because I thought we did Sunday, and then we decided Monday night we wanted to continue, but you worked, so I thought you were only there for the first one.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we played for like 4
That's
hours that
true.
night.
And it was just Alcazar.
Elzakar.
Was it Alcazar or was it Alcazar?
It was Alzakar.
Alcazar. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, Elzakar was that lizard folk monk or dragonborn?
He was a dragonborn, but the major thing that kind of went with him was that he went and he trained to be a monk, and he got absolutely demolished at one point, where he basically took like a roundhouse kick to the right here in the temple, and he wasn't able to communicate very well since. And that was a kind of a play out on it too, because at the time I didn't trust myself. This was the second Forge of Fury, and it was running off of my copy of the game, so I had already
Oh, that's
previously
right, that's
gone
right,
back
yeah.
I forgot you
and
brought
read through this
Elzakar to that
whole
one.
thing. And so
Wait,
since I
you
already
went-
knew pretty much the entirety of Forge of Fury, I did that. And then when that came up with Sif, I just stayed back.
Wait,
Except when it came to the dragon.
wait.
Because when there's a dragon involved,
Weren't you a spellcaster in that one? Didn't you put me to sleep?
you're
No.
thinking of another iteration
No,
of it
that's a-
in which I
that's-
put
that's a different
Kevin to
one.
sleep.
Yeah, you put me to sleep.
Did we have two Forge of... No, because I was Kovash the Barbarian.
So, so originally, Austin, no, was it Austin who
Reefs.
did that one? It was I
Oh,
have
that
it
because
named
that was
here.
Austin ran the
I
one with
was in
Daniels,
both
Storm
for
King. You're
Druid.
doing
series.
Storm King's what it was.
I did
Hmm.
Storm Kings. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was playing a rogue, and we started out at Forge of Fire, whereas with this campaign we started out at the Hall of whatever it's
The
called.
Sunless
On the
Citadel.
Citadel.
Yeah, the Sunless Citadel. So yeah, so that was my first time messing around. So actually, Storm King was my first time messing around with Roll20. So I had that rogue, and you guys put me to sleep out in the middle of the open.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Um, but
So that rogue was not gonna
if
make it.
you'd rather leave Elzakar in the past, at least that iteration of him, that's fine. I did want to talk a bit. Sif's been gone a few sessions. I know you've kind of popped in a few times. So you've seen, how Kovash has been reacting and other
Mhm.
people. Um,
Yeah, I noticed the uptake of drinking. He went from he went from a little bit of a kind of a light drinker to a Wisconsinite.
Well, and one thing I did mention to Kyle that I didn't mention in game because I guess we're gonna get to it next time when we finish this 20-minute adventure, um, was that this last day he was actually like kind of getting back to what he was like in the beginning, fake drinking. At that point, he was drinking because people expected, but like the bartender would be able to tell you that like he'd actually been nursing like 4 drinks all day or something. So people think he's drunk, but he's not because he
Yeah.
has things he's gonna do that I think I talked to you about last night that I don't want to talk about on here particularly right now. But I'm curious, going from a player to a viewer on the perspective, how have you perceived the party to change since Sif left? You mentioned Kovash's drinking, but um, anything else
uh,
you've noticed either about individuals or the party as a whole?
well, I'm going to be honest. After I left, the campaign started to have like tie-ins as people were doing things weren't able to make it, and we were holding it off, and you guys were holding it off for a while.
That's true.
So I don't have too much to go on how everyone is kind of like going on it, because if we're really talking in game, it's only been like 5, 6, or 7 days now,
That's
like
true.
maybe a week.
That's true. I will say. Oh, I kind of got into that in the question after I flipped back to Kevin, but I will say I think I underestimated, and I'll get to the question part of it later. But I what I will say as far as party dynamic in general, I think and I don't know if Kevin or anyone else in the party will agree with me, but I think we all underestimated how critical you actually were in actual decision making.
I will say the last session was kind of interesting, sitting there for like a good hour on the back and forth with the stone galore. I was sitting there at the press, and I was like, this is almost getting more repetitive than what I'm doing right here, guys. Guys, just make a decision. But then as soon as you guys make but it's also still going not too differently, because when you guys make a decision, it still gets done.
I don't agree with that at
I mean,
all.
Dicketh soared across the entire city on a super hastened whistle and jumped you guys pretty up. Like you guys were in spitting distance of that stone that you guys just now got a hold
And
of
then
now.
they left it there. That's what I
You
was gonna
guys,
say. Is Dickett's our leader and we follow him? Like, if he says something and says it emphatically, we will do what he says. But he doesn't say things emphatically often. And what I'm starting to realize is that there was a lot of times previously where you would point out the issue with a vague plan or something and have an alternative that actually made it better. And no one else actually does that. We're just like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens?
Well, to be fair, number one, Sif was a conqueror in his previous lifestyle and all that, so he always had that. That was kind of him. I'm gonna be honest. There were a couple times where the idea Sif gave, and I'm glad we didn't go with it a couple times, because they were
Terrible.
possibly dead, terrible, dumb ideas, but it was always something to kind of offer it and kind of give everyone something to be able to like cut the pitter patter off and focus on what you guys know right now, as opposed to the what ifs.
So you guys also have to remember that Jalyneth hasn't been with you guys as you guys traverse around the town and pick up all this information. So you guys literally have to tell Jalyneth what's going on. So like,
Kovash is never there either because Kovash doesn't give a shit about any of this. And you're right, Forma. Forma said Kovash is basically a Wisconsinite. He's a true Northerner, beer and all.
Yep.
so yeah, so like when like when I asked like where did Dicketh go, and everyone was like he went off to the docks to retrieve something, and I'm like, okay, that's weird, but sure. And then you guys are like, we gotta get this stone. I'm like, what is this stone? And then I was like, it's the key to the vault.
And we're like, oh yeah, let's get the stone.
I'm like,
But
oh, all
I'm
right. So
not
then let's
going
get
on a
the
sub
stone.
adventure. I'm confused. This doesn't belong to her. It belongs to the city. Why did you leave it with her? Why are we doing this mission and not just taking it? But
Again, you guys got remember Jalyneth is not there with you guys half the time, so Jalyneth has no information with what's going on, and then you guys just assume that Jalyneth knows what happened. I'm like, no, Jalyneth has no notes or anything about what's happening.
Jelenith is not a oh, I can't remember which kind of wizard it is, but it is not the class that has the alchemical eye or ear that just is following around, listening as you guys are doing stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, Tyr, so you said you haven't really necessarily perceived all that many differences. Is there anything that surprised you then? I was going to ask if there were any differences in the party that you didn't expect, but if you haven't necessarily noticed huge party shifts or anything, is there anything that actually surprised you?
Well, there is one shift that I did that I almost forgot about. That was kind of nice to see. It was like almost the immediate one after was this moment in which Bjolf and Kovash come a little bit closer together, and it's like, wow, now three became two. Here, these are my problems. Here, these are my problems. Will you take me down? Yes, sure. Ah, bloody ho, yes. And it was just that was nice and it was enjoyable. It was like an ah, but in a scary way too. Like, ah, what's gonna happen? Will Kovash become the murderer of all? Is there a secret agenda that Bjelf's not talking about? Let's find out.
And the last question I have for you right now before we flip over again a little bit.
All right.
Do you think Sif will ever show up again when the stars and schedules obviously align?
There will be times where Sif will probably want try and at least like come and see the group. If schedules come up and make it possible, there would be a decent possibility. But at this point, right now,
right. Like I said, I know the schedule is a big thing. I guess I was more asking like if your schedule ever shifted to where you could be. Do you think you'd bring Sif back, or would you maybe bring something new in?
I would probably continue. I would definitely continue Sif. I mean, you don't get told by the DM that, oh yeah, by the way, your character is the chosen of Tempest, and not like continue that. I mean, that isn't exactly. Oh, you're the chosen. No, you don't understand. You're the chosen of Tempest.
Yeah, you're like, Sif thinks that already, and they're like, no, you are.
And it's like, oh, and then way back when I'm trying to figure out and confirm about Bane, and Sif is given like a damn near death shock because he placed a black hand mark for the black hand of Bane, and damn near was like electrotherapy shocked by Tempest immediately. Like, who the fuck do you think you are, you little shit?
Good to know. I'm excited for whenever it happens. But Kevin, we aren't talking about masks with you. I forgot about this. You mentioned the other day something to me that I kind of wanted to talk about because I think it'd be cool to talk about on the show a bit. If you want to, I understand if you don't. Um, you mentioned you've been working on your own tabletop. I know you said it isn't finished, so obviously you don't want to get too into it. But is there anything you can tell us about it?
Yeah. Sure, I can talk about this. So as you've known, I like to do a lot of one shots in D&D, just because campaign writing is a lot of struggle, and getting people to constantly come to a game is a commitment. So one shots is this kind of nice little area of where people can just kind of show up, or who can get there and just play and that kind of stuff. And the reason why is because I do a lot of my one shots in D&D, and I realized that D&D is actually, as much as fifth edition is easier to get into, D&D is actually a little bit harder to get into it as a tabletop role playing game system. There are other systems that are better for it, but D&D is the big one right now. And so I wanted to create a system that gives you that accessibility of getting into it. So something much simpler, but yet still has somewhat the complexity of what D&D can provide you. Is what I
Okay.
wanted to do. So I took a lot of different things from a lot of different systems. So for example, so in my system, you only need to use a D6.
Okay.
So
Like
you don't have to worry
Warhammer.
about buying a full set of dice. You can get a D6, which is
Like
much easier
like
to acquire.
Masks, Warhammer, powered by the Apocalypse systems.
Yeah. So you just need D6, and what you do is and so the main system is that it's actually run on checks, not just checks, but like it run on pass and fail checks. So it's a pool system in a sense too. So depending on what event on the situation, your pool of d6s that you roll will grow or shrink depending on your situation and your character stats and whatnot. So the DM or your game manager is going to come up with an idea of like what number they need to pass, or the DM themselves could roll with their own pool of dice as well.
For like a
Um,
contested or
yeah,
something.
for contestants. Yeah, yeah. So that idea originally came from the Firefly system, because my partner plays Firefly, and so they do a lot of these pool kind of things. And I'm like, the idea of pools actually works pretty well, because then you can have this idea of number of successes versus number of failures and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so like you can still roll real bad as long as as long as the DM or the check or the check number that you need to pass is lower. Um, so you create your pool based upon the situation and your stats. It uses a lot of concept from GURPS, so that we can kind of make it a little bit more universal, more open.
Yep.
So like if you wanted to create a character that has like a chainsaw or something like that,
Yeah.
you can incorporate that into your game. The idea is like I want to take this system and make it work with any kind of scenario that you're playing with,
Right.
because
It's
a lot of it uses. Yeah.
that's kind of a thing I like you were kind of getting at with D&D is I see a lot of people who are like I want to do a Star Wars D&D, I want to do a pirate D&D, and I'm like D&D does D&D really well, but when you try and bring that other stuff in, it actually the rules just aren't there to support those things.
Right. And like so I watch a lot of Dimension 20.
Yeah.
I watch all of those shows, and like Brennan Lee Mulligan does a really good job of incorporating D&D rules into those world, but he's also very lax about it.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard, is trying to find a DM that's very lax about the rules and the guidelines and whatnot, especially trying to get the spells part to work outside of the D&D world.
Yeah.
Because for example, they have the Unsleeping City, which takes place in New York, which takes place in our world. And so there's spellcasters there, and there is magic that they use, but trying to get that to work outside of the idea of how the D&D world works is a little bit more complicated and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So with the system I was creating, I wanted to create it where, by using concepts from GURPS, you can incorporate that idea of magic, because that magic idea works specifically for your character in this world then as well.
Yeah.
It puts a lot more work on the dungeon master, but I think it's going to really open up the experience for the players. And if a dungeon master sees that his players are enjoying the game, the dungeon master himself is going to enjoy the game more, even though there's all this work.
Do you
Um,
have once it's done, or maybe as a playtest, do you intend to ever do a one shot of it on stream or anything?
Oh yeah. I've mentioned this in our chats, but so I actually have a setting that I have created that could work for for also work for D&D rules.
Right.
But it's called Nyakuzas. You are a group of cats and a yakuza gang inside of like this like cat Kyoto Tokyo world.
This already sounds amazing.
It's pretty great. The story writing takes a little bit because trying to make sure that
It's not too silly.
right, you don't want it to be too silly. I mean, you still want that silliness in it
Yeah.
because it's really because I've been really aiming more towards called let's play styles
Yeah.
versus kind of like what we do here in
Yeah.
on NPC. That's a little bit more rules regulated. So as you guys may have noticed in the past couple episodes, I've been trying to be a little bit more loosey goosey and funny about how I do things, and a little bit more kind of like just let it happen kind of things.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm trying to make sure that this game scenario that I'm writing allows for that, but yet still has some kind of rules and
Structure.
regulation to it, some structure. Yeah, so that way it doesn't go too far out of the pocket of what the story sets up.
Awesome. I'm super excited to see what that's like. I was gonna ask what kind of difficulties or anything you've encountered. You kind of went into that with having to kind of pull from different areas to pick strong points from different
Oh yeah.
systems. Um,
This system actually I started developing like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and
Jeez.
I've completely trashed it and rewrote it like in the past 2 years.
See, anytime I think of that, I'm like, man, if I want to run something in a weird setting, like I've talked to Daniel. I said if I ever were to do like a pirate campaign again, because I don't know what I've told you guys, but my new world is Loranthial, but basically there was a world reshaping event. It's still a lot of water, but like there are actual continents now instead of just a
Yeah,
bunch of small islands. Because I was like, D&D, they've released rules for ships and everything, but it's not really built for it. Like
yeah.
even the rules they have are really like not super
I
user
yeah.
friendly.
I think that our biggest problem with Loranthra was traveling.
Oh yeah.
It took so long to get anywhere in that
Well, and
campaign.
and you guys are gonna be happy that I've also gotten rid of the time stuff.
Yeah. Well,
There's
that's good.
there's new gods, and I think what I did is there's no new time god, so that means there's no god to maintain slowing the flow of time that happened at Loranthial.
Listen,
Um,
guys, 13 days in a week, 13 weeks in a month, and 13 months in a year.
Meant
Oh,
that one
tracking
year was
time.
the equivalent of like
That
13 years,
was
damn near.
that was
It was
So
it
that
was
good.
a
was
bad. It
ridiculous.
sounded really cool in my head and in the lore, and then we started playing, and it was a nightmare. We might have gotten through what
It
1.5 months.
Yeah,
it was a nightmare.
yeah,
It
because when you
was 2 months.
because the minute you said yeah, it's gonna be like 2 weeks worth of travel, and we're like, oh, so 26 days. So like when you say it took a certain amount of weeks, like we had to
And then
calculate how many days that
we're
was.
like that's so many more days than that's 2 more days than an actual like or 2 less days than actual 2 weeks, but it's only like a sixth of the month instead of half of the month.
Yeah, so like it just time was such a hard like getting time down in your world was just such a drag because like you had to keep track of it for sure.
Oh yeah. I had a whole calendar. I marked every time I actually did prep, which you guys know I did minimal prep. One of the few things I did was say, okay, this is how many days would have passed. This is what day it is now. Because with that calendar and everything I did, I was like, I found out early because I didn't early on. And I was like, no, I'm going to have to start to if I'm having timed events in the campaigns. Like there were points, like the attack on the university was a timed event that I was like, on this day this will happen, and then the goblin was like, I kind of want, or you guys crash landed there, and they were like, we're from the university, and I was like, ooh, there's about to be an attack here. um, but I'm excited to see what happens with that and to try it out at some point. But Tyr, I do want to shift gears and talk about masks a bit with you because it's also been a few weeks since you left us, since Tyrant left as well. Um, I know I've talked a bit about how he was actually what I've realized again. I don't know if I necessarily appreciated it when I was in character as Fallstar, but what I've started to realize is he was one of the more actually heroic people in our group.
Uh,
At least the way that I saw things. When I started to look back, and it was that way from the beginning. When I look back, I'm like, man, he used to be a criminal, but he's the one that was like, yo, why are you destroying stuff? Come chill, we gotta cool you down. Um, so sort of like I asked with Sif, and we haven't had nearly as long as of a hiatus on Mass, so I think you might have seen a bit more of that. Um, is there any shifts in the dynamic
yeah,
that
you
that
guys
have
kind of.
happened? You think? My perspective, I think it has again gotten a bit chaotic and harder to control. Fall tried to be the leader and be the hero, but he also didn't control himself well, and I think you kept a lid on things decently, as did Drift for that matter. And
Yeah,
he's gone too.
it's a bunch of teenagers who just had who had a bunch of people who are around suddenly now not no longer around. It's going exactly as I would kind of expect it to,
um, I know some people
with
seem.
more killing than I was expecting at the beginning of the campaign. I actually remember, like the whole thing that Tyrant had ended up killing someone previously, whether it was accidental, was like a big thing. It was like, and uh, I even remember talking with Steven, and he was like, I don't know if I really want that kind of thing like going on. And then like not like the second or third session, we
We had Fall was murdering a bunch of people, just throwing
we had
ordinary
you
guards
murdering a bunch of
against trees
people.
and shit.
We had FW like blasting people.
Um, I do,
Yeah.
I do know some people have been kind of upset, like in game as in character, that we aren't putting more effort into figuring out what happened with you or looking for you. I don't know how much you've seen again. I know I regularly point out when they do that we don't really have any leads on that other than my/our mom, who is an Aegis
But they
agent.
disappeared. They went time
Yeah.
traveling. So
And
good
then
luck.
we found out they're an Aegis agent, so we're like, oh, guess let's infiltrate Aegis and see what's going on. We already don't like him. We can maybe play the two against each other while trying to find info out about this stuff. So, do you anything you think we should have done or be doing differently with regards to figuring out what happened to Tyrant and all of that? Or
Um,
or do you think, or has Steve kept that on the DL? What happened to Tyrant? Do you not even know?
I don't 100% know. I just know that there are things that are trying to happen. I know that previous conversations that I may have had with Steven might come up in which maybe it might not be or it might be Tyrant may come back, but I might not be in control of him because he is back to back to some bad ways. He broke he broke a chip and a chip of that had something to do with time traveling and a teleportation belt together. So there's no telling what's happened to him right now. Other than he maybe bought you guys a little time or played into some hands.
I think Fall at least, even if he did show up, I think that would be really cool. I think it would be semi challenging for Steve to pull off well. And I
Mhm.
can't speak for the rest of the group, and I don't know how much of Masks Kevin has actually seen. But I can tell you that Fall would 100% be the like, nah, there's definitely a reason Tyrant's doing bad stuff. He's really on our side, guys. Don't worry. Hey, Ty, what's up?
Right.
And you're like, oh
Everyone's like,
yeah,
"Oh,
what's
he's
up?
evil,
And
kill
just
him."
drain me. And you're like, and now that he's out of the way, and
Uh,
you don't have, I see Drift's not here to teleport you away. What can you guys do to me? And then MW's like, bitch, I'm a sorcerer.
Yep. And that's when I just do the what I feel Fall should have been doing, and which was making him the central point of a lot of his gravity things. Like, hey, I'm a sorcerer. Pretty much pull MW close. Drain. All right, who's next?
um,
And now I have sorcerers. Now I have his, and I can still drain y'all, and
can
don't
you
even
hold
worry about
multiple
it.
at once? I know that's a common, like, for lack of a better comparison, quirk in superpowers is that most people that steal typically can only like access one at a time or something.
It's a little bit it all depends on how far you go.
Okay.
Tyrant's father was a lot more willing to go that far. So in actuality, if I had been continuing Tyrant and I switched over to Doomed, which was the idea, um, I was going to ask the DM what's his face's powers were, the MW's brother, because I drained him to the end of his life,
Yeah.
which means that I might have had his gotten his powers
I was
permanently.
I was gonna say maybe some kind of Legion-esque. You're draining their life force and their powers. Maybe they are living
Mm.
inside of you as well, or something like that.
Hmm.
Could be very cool.
Well, if he comes back and I get and I'm doing him in that variant, it'll probably be doomed, and he will still have his namesake vitality absorption, but he will probably have a couple other things. You know,
Yeah.
doomed. You know how funky that can get.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say I do know that my first Doomed, that was the thing I said because I had the vitality absorption. So I actually originally wrote into my backstory that basically when I ran away. So backstory on Cole was that his dad was a cop. My brother ran away at one point. My dad never really explained why or anything, and then I had the typical like X-Men freak out in the locker room at school or something,
Hmm.
and came home and dad basically beat me and was like, "Yo, you're just like your that other quote unquote son I had. You guys are nothing but animals, mutations, blah blah blah." And so
Hmm.
I ran away, and there was this trucker that helped me, like they had a heart attack while driving or something because I had fallen asleep and been touching them. And so I had written in that like there was a car accident and they died and stuff. And Steve was like, "We're gonna alter that. Just put that like when you woke up, the ambulance and stuff, you could tell they were coming and you just ran away." He was like, "Because I don't really want you guys to have actually killed anyone." And he was a
Yeah.
lot stricter on that kind of stuff in the first one, but I
Yep.
think he also learned with Laney joining it as a delinquent in that one that like those rules don't apply fully to some of the more unique classes like the delinquent or the reformed or the scion where like you are actually a villain, you have to be willing to let them be the anti-hero in that case.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully sometime similar to Dick's schedules and stars will align and Tyrant will show up again for a one-off or something, maybe as a one-off villain that you get to control.
Oh, that would be fun.
Maybe, shoot, you could design that. You could come up with the one shot and be like, okay, guys, I have a masks one shot. You're playing your
Oh,
characters from that one. Let's go.
oh, do we have all our adult moves? Yes, you do. Go ahead.
Yep,
Have fun.
yeah, this is 20 years later.
Oh, jeez.
This is 20 years later. Everyone's full adult. Let's go. Um,
I, I, what I would like, personally would like to see is for us to possibly in the future for NPS, like maybe a one-off. It's I believe we passed a year recently, or we're getting close to passing a year since we really started.
yeah,
And
Yep.
what I think would be really cool for all of us to do is like every year of this anniversary point,
do like a one
we
shot or
kind of
something.
like yeah, like we roll off on the number of people in the group who would like to and then the person who gets it makes a one shot for the entire group to play, in which we play like a longer session on a day off that on
That we
a day
plan
off
ahead.
holiday.
That we're like, hey guys, this is NPC day. Everyone take off of work. We're getting together for a one shot, and we're
Hmm.
streaming it.
Everyone take off of work.
I mean,
Everyone, if you can.
I assume what we would probably do in that case is we would either cancel the streams on Sunday, in which case Austin would have to try and request off, or
Yeah.
we would do it on a Saturday where it's just me and Austin that have to request off, and everyone else is already off of work. Is what would probably happen in those cases.
Yep.
Because it's better than asking literally all of us, or for me and Austin to be like, well, we're off on Monday, so the five of you should take a Monday off so we can do it.
Hmm. One I would like to see though is like a little bit of one for in 5U where it's kind of gladiatorial battles. Like, there's
I
7 of
every
us.
time you suggest it, I'm down, and I've said that on these Sundays where people miss and we're canceling, if we do cancel stream, people who have one shots prepared should just offer to stream a one shot instead, so we're still doing something and people can still stop by for D&D.
Hmm.
So, Austin, you remember how I needed you to create me a game in Roll20 and then I DM so then I can get DM permission and mess around with it?
Do you still
It
need
was
me to do that? Oh, did you
no,
do it? Oh.
it was for a gladiatorial combat.
Oh.
Um, I finally got all the lighting fixed down, and then like I couldn't do it that day because family shit was coming up.
Oh no.
So I kind of have a world like I kind of have a gladiatorial battle set for like a 4-player PvP.
Oh,
I'd be
Austin,
into that.
Austin, I know Austin has a one or I know when he made it originally, he said he had stuff so that it could technically turn into a campaign, but he had a few like a gladiator campaign prepped.
Hmm. So a few years ago, it was like maybe 3 years ago now.
It was
Um,
more than that at this point. It doesn't
oh
feel
boy.
like it.
We ended what
We've been
was.
doing Dickus counting pre-stream for like 2 years now.
Yeah, I have
Fair,
notes
fair,
going
you're
that
right.
far back. Let's see, what is the first date?
It was shortly after we started playing D&D together and we met, and I want to say that was actually at this point like 5 or 6 years ago.
So
Jeez, you're right.
first day of Dickif was March 11th, 2019.
Yeah. So we're 2.5 years into Dickus.
Damn. Not yeah. Okay, so yeah, like 5 years ago now. Um, I started my first DMing my first campaign, and I went ahead and I created my own world as opposed to just doing off a module.
Literally all of us did. I did that. Kyle, to be fair, had played before, but you did it. Tim super fucking did it.
Like Tim went
Tim
went into it.
literally played one session and was like, guys, I built a world. Do you want to play a campaign? And we were like, you've played one session. What do you mean?
Yeah, and he's like, no, I've already created and built everything. Mind you, he really went into it.
Yeah,
But
yeah. As far as I know, he's still super into D&D and everything.
so when that campaign ended, I went to the conclusion that you guys or someone else was able to complete what was the end game goal for that campaign. Was you guys were in a faltering, breaking, dismembering world. Someone in Faerun tried to replicate Faerun, or the entire world of Toril. I'm sorry, as for his own little play toy, trying to do some crazy high level magic. As usual kind of thing happens, there was a moment in which it was one of the gods are like, no. But when they said no, the world was only half built. It only stopped it and didn't just completely destroy it.
Yeah.
And that's where you guys ended up growing up, living, and presiding all this time.
Poor Lean, the 13-year-old alcoholic.
Oh my God.
She didn't
but long
start
story.
that way.
She did not.
Was it Lug?
Not Lug, but I don't remember what Brian's character's name was.
It was a barbarian. That's all I remember.
Yep, big Goliath barbarian. But long story short, the end game was ending the world to save it, because everyone and everything, if the world ended the way it would fall into nothingness and be outside of reality. They'd be the equivalent of non-believers in the religious sense of the D&D universe, especially since they were connected to Toril and all that.
Right.
So connected to those circle and lines of gods and all of that. But that new world, I've been world building and building up for a long period of time, and the area of which that the major like gladiatorial place is for the most part finished and built out, and just needs now needs now like a party or something in order to grow it and evolve it out. Because one thing I learned from the previous campaign is that when I built the entire city and had it all like this, that, and the other for you guys, it didn't work out. But when I kind of did it, did it in the module where they gave me a rough idea of what was in the town. They would tell me like where this is and where that is, and that was that. And then you guys would do something stupid and make it so you can't go there. So now you got to go somewhere else. So, well, then I have to freeball it.
I was gonna say, yeah. I thought you were going the what I learned, and I don't know why I didn't learn it before Laurential, but is that it's a lot easier, in my opinion, and experience personally, anyways, to build a world for D&D. Like, you should have a general framework for the entire world, but like, it really does help more to just go and say, I need you all to be relevant. This is where this campaign is, and build out as the campaign goes, rather than being like, this is here, this is here, this is here, this is here, this
Yep.
has this happening, and then you've got 800 million things going on, and something happens in game, and you're like, wait, does that change that? How does that affect that? Crap, what did I do? I shouldn't have built all of these things statically.
You when you build like one or two major areas and leave the rest as just like baseline and kind of give them like a rough draft of kind of like a three sentences. What does this part of the world do? Had some kind of invading, conquering force, savage way, hardy rainforest.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
and then that evolves out to like Chult.
So what I did when I was building my world was, so I have my general world, so I have my continents, I have the major cultures and major cities on each of the continents, but I force all the players to play from a certain I force all the players to play in a certain city, but they can be anywhere. They can be anywhere in the world. I'll let that happen, but I let them know that general culture, what that is, and what they do probably will not affect much that happened there. And then, as we were traveling, I let the players kind of design the cities for me.
Yeah.
That's what I've done, and that's a much easier way than you to
Where
try and
you're
design
like, okay,
everything.
you guys are now coming to your hometown, so why don't you give me a map of your hometown and how you picture it?
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. And
Like-
I know
like
that, and in his defense, I know that's what Tim tried to do on his first one. He sort of built a couple continents and was like, these are the continents, guys, and he was like, I want each of you to design one of them. And we were like, that's your job as the DM. I don't want to do that for you. I'm doing that for my world. But yeah, world buildings, all kinds of stuff. I will keep
That's a whole separate session if you want.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, we could go on for 5 hours about the different world building techniques we've all done. But I do, before we get to the end and fully open it up to you guys, I do, Kevin, you've kind of, I wanted to sort of give you a shout out. You've handled a lot of the tech stuff for us at NPC from the beginning. I know you've done stuff with, you were the first one to figure out, minimizing or shrinking the Discord screen so you only see one screen to make it look a little better. Doing all kinds, you were hosting and setting up scenes, doing all the I know recently you redid all the Roll20 stuff for everyone. So I wanted to say thanks for, figuring out OBS and all that kind of stuff for us. I'm starting to realize how much you've done because I've been doing it on my channel, and obviously I don't have you and a group of people to do these things, so I did want to, say thanks for dealing with all of that for us in the beginning, especially when none of the rest of us could be bothered for it. But secondly, is there anything with regards to that side of things like streaming or anything specific that you wish you had known earlier that was harder than you expected it to be?
I mean, I think for the most part, it's just trying to make sure that everything works. So if you remember correctly, when I built this computer at the start of, was it this year? Yeah, at the start of this year, and I was having that memory issue, so my computer was constantly restarting. So when I was hosting things, my computer would restart in the middle of the stream. Like, God damn it!
Oh, wait, that was a memory issue?
Yeah, that was a ramp.
I thank you. You've confirmed that my issue is memory, because that is exactly what happens. The game freezes, crashes, and then my screen goes black and my computer just restarts.
Yeah, so it's bad. So my RAM was having bad memory write. It looks like it was a bad set of RAM
Okay.
from the factory it appear. So I got new RAM, ran some tests, everything worked better, and from then the computer's been much better. And just learning everything is kind of the fun part. I mean, there's a lot of new stuff that I still want to try or still need to learn. Things like making animation backgrounds and stuff like
Yeah.
that for the stream. But like right now, it's just a lot of fun, kind of like doing all these small, subtle changes over time.
Yeah.
Like so when we first started, um,
We just used Roll20 videos straight up.
yeah, we used Roll20 videos straight up, and then like I always complained about it because Roll20 videos always was one, it was shitty.
And two, it's tiny, and B, it's locked where it is. Like, I think you can move them to the side if you want, but like, you can't do like you did where you place them and give them borders or anything.
Yeah. Plus, and then whenever somebody's video went out, you have to refresh all of the videos.
Yeah.
It was like it was so bad. And Daniel was having that connection disconnect
It's
problem.
something with our internet because we have that anytime
Well,
because we still use Roll20 masks, and
Yeah.
both of us have that issue, and I never had that issue before.
right. And so with Discord, we don't have to worry about that. So moving to Discord was a big thing. Audio control is much easier in Discord too. But I think I think if I knew how to do audio setup at the beginning, we wouldn't have so many weird audio issues to begin with. Like, because like I now have hotkeys everywhere for muting things and all that kind of fun jazz. Um, I have my monitor set up in a way now so that way I can see everything, both what the audience is seeing, my play monitor, my DM monitor. I just can't see you guys on the video. So actually, when we were playing, I actually am watching everything happen
Delayed.
via OBS.
I do that. I usually have
No, no,
chat
not
open
not,
up.
not delay it,
Oh.
not on Twitch. I'm watching it through
Oh,
OBS.
that's what I do right now. That's what I've literally been doing.
Yeah.
I flip back to my like Google Doc of my questions and stuff sometimes. But yeah, I'm just staring at OBS because it lets me see chat too.
Yeah, because originally I was running two separate browsers to do Roll20, one for map and everything, and another one for video. So then that way I didn't have to worry about the video or the map or whatever interfering with video screens and all this stuff. But now everything can just be done in one browser because by moving to Discord, it fixed a lot of things. I've been working with Kyle to making sure that I have DM access, so that way the audience can see everything as well.
Yeah.
Because the problem wasn't so much about letting the audience see everything. The problem was about Kyle managing the stream and trying to DM.
Yeah.
That was the problem. Because as you know, the Austin knows for sure, the DM gets so much shit in these modules.
Oh yeah.
Like I reorganized everything because there was just so much, and Kyle was struggling because like he has two different magic item folders originally because one was from like the previous game that session that we had. Everybody's character sheet were all over the place. Like S Phil was like way at the top, and then like the module stuff, and then everybody else's character sheet and stuff down at the bottom. And I'm like, this is terrible. We're fixing this. So now everybody's got their folder with the magic items in it. All of the module notes are after the character notes, so then that way Kyle can easily access your notes if he needs to.
Yeah. Phoenix said he's finding that to be a challenge in Strahd, in our Sunday night
Well,
Strahds.
Well, now that Kyle and I just learned how to organize everything, that's also a thing we didn't know that could happen.
That's why I've been forward in making sure to try and offer as much help as I can for Steven with Strahd. I've played through a few campaigns now where I end up having knowledge that some people may want to use to their advantage in meta instances or such like that. So so being in that, I've just learned to be able to be like, all right, everyone else can figure this one out. I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know anything about this, but I am very scared that you guys are doing this right now. I can't believe we're doing this. No, we do not want to go into this scared. No.
Yeah. So like I have to be very careful because I can see everything from the DM's perspective. So when I'm playing Gel enough, I actually move to a completely different browser so that way when
You
I'm
can
playing as
actually
Jelena,
compartmentalize.
yeah, I can play
Yep.
as what Jelena sees. Um,
It's
so
so
like yeah,
nice having.
so the biggest thing is just getting audio correct. Because like being able to finally split out Discord audio from my desktop audio, I don't have to worry about volume anymore as much because OBS has like those specific bars in there,
Yeah.
and so when desktop and Discord are both happening at the same time through the same audio channel, you can't use that bar anymore, and
Yeah.
like just trying to get that fixed. So getting that mixer and virtual audio system and all that stuff going really just kind of up the game a bit in how we produce our
Right.
because now we have audio, like there's literally background music that plays when we're playing now,
Yeah.
and I can adjust that audio separately from the Discord audio, and I couldn't really do that before. So
Yeah,
it's been
I was fantasizing literally like last night. I was like, you know, it'd be really cool for Wishlight if I got like Google light bulbs in my room, so that at least I, as the DM, can like, hey Alexa, turn the lights pink. Hey Alexa, strobe or rotate or whatever.
way to go, Don. You better hope nobody in the audience has an Alexa, smart light bulbs.
I mean, I didn't do it. If you guys didn't notice, my lights didn't change. I don't have money for all of that.
Well, not for you, but like for the audience,
Oh.
you could have also commanded the
Oh.
audience's Alexas to do things.
Um,
So like I could put in smart light bulbs up here and like have that do cool fun lights. Um, I'm thinking about maybe trying to find a way to do some more ambient feeling with
Yeah.
the stream itself somehow, some way
Yeah.
besides just music. But that's a little bit more work.
yeah.
That also requires a little bit more being actively in OBS, which is I'm trying to do less of, so that way I can get more character in.
Yeah.
Because if you realize, it's like since I started hosting the game, Jalen's been a lot more passive about things because I'm doing both OBS and playing. So like
Yeah.
I spend quite a bit of time in OBS fixing things and making sure everything
I-
looks good.
I think just about all of us have had days where we've been doing other things, and I think everyone can usually tell pretty easily. I know I've had days where people are like, "Are you good? Are you paying like what's going on?" And you know, you're like, "Oh, this thing's going on. I'm dealing with, or I'm hosting stream too, and just kind of focusing on that. Sorry, I'll be back in a minute or something." But yeah, I can only imagine. I was gonna ask what you like about it, but you kind of already. Or what about like IT
You
stuff
just muted
interests you?
yourself. Oh, your audio just dropped out completely from that sentence.
That
What a
was
question.
weird. I think I unintentionally like clicked some source or something and muted. I did mute myself. Better? Oh, you
Yep.
muted there because you
I muted
sneezed.
myself because I was sneezing.
I
don't wanna
heard the
sneeze into
static,
mic.
so I was like, wait, is something really going?
Yeah, I want
was
to do that
gonna
one day,
say-
Steven.
I was gonna say, honestly, yeah, I've been watching like a lot of VTubers and stuff, and they have a lot of different things that like I want to kind of explore and see. Cause like even like I've seen like some PNG stuff that I'm like,
Oh yeah.
A, for people who don't do cameras, or just to have it on Roll20, like if we could figure out a way to get, like, I know Laney's working on art of our characters, if we could get that to, like, light up on stream when we're talking. I
yeah.
know people do it with me where I hop in a Discord call and it automatically pulls up this picture that lights up whenever I talk.
I'm not gonna lie. V2 being part of the VTuber community gives me so much inspiration about how to stream and stuff we could do.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you. Like I said,
Like-
yeah.
Like I've actually been messing around with a little bit of VTuber software, and like if we take the time, we could like try to design your characters in the VTuber software,
Yeah.
and then put you guys in the stream. So when you guys are moving around or acting, your characters.
Right. And I don't know anyone else. Tier's computer might be able to handle that, but I feel like that's one that like pretty much you and Tier would be able to handle actually running that. I don't think any of the rest of us,
Yeah.
our computers would be like, nah, bro, there's way too much things going on here. Stop it.
But the PNG one is actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, that's
being
pretty
able to have that-
simple. You
Yeah.
take whatever art Laney makes, make that the PNG model, and then it just lights up when you talk. It seems.
Yeah, it lights up, or you can have it like doing like an action or something whenever you talk. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of them that like they'll like pop forward and get slightly bigger and light up. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we'll have to explore when we get the group together to discuss some stuff and go through some stuff.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
Tier, lastly, I'd like to ask you a bit about what Sif's got going on now. I know I personally was a bit confused. We had a conversation, and then Kyle kind of said some of that stuff wasn't quite the way that I understood it from that conversation. Um, is there anything you'd like to expand or explain on what Sif has been doing off screen for these 5 or 6 days? For the
Well,
viewers or
that
anyone, if you want to keep it to yourself, you can.
just a little. I can touch into it a little bit, but otherwise, that's something that he can speak for on himself. If people decide they want to go and ask or check it out. I mean, I know Kovash probably won't because Northern Pride, but hey,
Soft boy. Soft boy.
Um,
um, but it was that first day, Sif pretty much got his ass kicked because he went, he was trying to go now and was like, all right, take these guys on, and got just absolute just. Kovash is beefy, and and even Rage, he'd probably take a couple hits for this and be like, oh. Why am I taking so
I was
much
gonna
damage?
say Kovash definitely isn't Bear, so like, although
No,
that's potentially in the future. Kovash
Yeah.
will probably switch classes when we hit 12, or subclasses. I mean,
Eh?
Actually, I think
huh?
I think
That's fair.
Jenna might.
Did you catch any of this week, Tier?
I did.
Yeah. Katra was planning a party that we then went to for a 20-minute adventure before, but he said Sif would get an invite, and I kind of assumed that.
Oh yeah. Whether or not he was there or not is up for everyone's iteration. Faith definitely was there to have a good drink with
I
y'all.
think you joked about it when you were over here, because I said we'll change it now since we did this, we'll do this.
Oh no, not the audio again.
Your audio's dropping again, man.
Yeah, it be like that.
I do.
But
Honestly, here's the thing. I think Jelenith might be the only one who's military trained.
Other than
Like-
Sif, yeah.
Well, was Sif military trained, or was Sif just like
I mean,
a king?
Barbarian
Oh,
does still have like a tribal military. It's just not a
He
military.
he went from in fact, I will say this real quick. When I was writing up Sif's backstory, I actually was really liked Horizon Zero Dawn, so I kind of went with the the Aloy thing. That was Sith, or should I say Lord? Because he was raised by 2 adoptive parents until he was 13, and when he woke up, or sometime around then, and when he woke up, they were gone. He had a hatchet with a bloody ritual saying on it, and he walked to the nearest tribe, uttered that phrase, and was given a chance to prove himself to join the tribe. Did so, and then worked his way from the ground up, and until it came time for him to try and lay claim to his own land. He went to a king. Told him to grab his axe and fight him, and instead was handed a crown.
So that
I'm not even, and this was all actually, as I came to find out, a long-lined conspiracy and seeds of planning. It was around this time that the seeds of Bane were actually implanted and treachery was involved. Bane and Sif has even asked Tempest at one point. He asked, if I had stopped being such a stubborn jackass and trying to eradicate all belief in the North,
Would this war have not happened? Yes.
oh no, he was like, and welcomed you in and been what you wanted me to be, would I have stood a chance? Would I have stood a chance, or would I still have my kingdom? And Tempest's answer was, it'd be bigger.
So to answer, or to, I think to give more info about what Steve is saying.
I got it. It was what I said.
Yeah, it's not, so like barbarian training is not exactly the same as like military training, because you're not really like military trained. You're more or less just like, hey, You need to hit harder. You need to move faster. You need to do this.
You need
It's
to
really
learn
not.
how to fight with these people, know where they're going to be.
But Sif was from the tribe that presided and lived over the belief on the basis of wolves, which was very idealistic
Pack
on
pounded. Yeah.
on pack tactics or being strategic about how you do it. Sif chose one of the tallest, sturdiest, most protective mountains he could, and he built a and he built and he helped hand build a monstrous fortress up there. Helped dig the mines underneath it in the mountain to connect it to the long line of the dwarven tunnels, and was very had a pretty when it came to dwarves. Lord was better known. When it came to the other humans and all that, he was not as well known because he denied the Lord's alliance a couple times.
I did have a little bit more on Sif. If he came back, if things changed, I assume he'd gain some levels along with the party because he is doing things. I assume
He's doing things. Yeah.
Would he stick? I know there's been various different multi-class options. Have you thought at
So-
all if he popped up and we're level 8 now, right? So let's say we're level 11. Would Sif still be Paladin, or would he maybe have shifted a bit and multied a little bit?
So I'd thought about that for a while. Level 9 was gonna be, or level 10 would have been the crossroad point where I need to make a decision because on one iteration, and this is because I always think ahead to level 20s, even if we never played at level 20, I always think ahead to that. So I thought Sif is doing pretty good at Paladin. Go to ninth level so I can get third level spells from Paladin because that brings Aura of Vitality, that brings Crusader's Mantle, that brings a lot of good spells that we want the Paladin to be bringing out and making me this bastion of like stick around me and we're gonna be good.
Yeah.
Because as it was, people weren't tripping over themselves as much when I was around, just because I was giving you guys all the charisma in the war, all the bonus to your saving throws in the world, thanks to Sten Fedora.
That
But I
was always
also was
right by
thinking,
me.
I was also thinking on going and multi-classing into fighter.
Action
One,
surge, second
two,
wind.
to give action surge, second wind, and I was also looking at the large number of ASIs that I could then pump into a couple areas, and I could take way more take more feats because as Sif is right now, he has a lot of feats.
Yeah.
He's sitting rocking a lot of them.
Yeah.
So continue to make him this highly specialized machine was the plan, and he's grown and changed from the original iteration of I want to make a Darth Vader, someone who has to stay stuck in their armor,
Yeah.
to, well, now let's see who is the person under the armor.
Yeah. Which is how it should work. We
I
go in
mean-
with a character concept even at level 1. I know we're all like, this is what I picture them being like at level 20 or
And
whatever.
he dropped.
Yeah, he drops.
And then I was just saying we all go in at, level 1 and we're like, this is the character I have. This is how I picture them becoming later on and the cool things they're going to be able to do.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you play the game and you're like, that doesn't really fit anymore. Things have changed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jallinliff had a whole subclass change.
Oh yeah. There were there was a couple moments in which I wanted to try something different, and I even brought it up. Sif may have was almost gonna be had almost been a Sorklock, or a Sorcidin.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Meta magic almost as bad as a Pallylock.
Oh, I mean,
A Hexlock.
give Sif access to doing hold person as a bonus action, and being able to extra attack you with
Yep.
smites on a paralyzed,
Yep.
not stunned, paralyzed auto crit person. It's
Yeah.
just a beautiful combo. It's very
Yeah.
disgusting. The only issue that would have been is that the only person Sif could have talked to help him possibly unlock that at the point was someone who was stealing power from Shar. Don't
Yeah.
want to learn to do that.
Well, now there's multiple people with Char, so
Yeah,
no,
I know.
there's just one now.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
know.
just Ketra now, right?
Yeah, but Beowulf and Katra talked. I think Katra's backing off a bit. Katra's just like, Katra is the character that would, if they were like in a book, like an independently developing story and not played by a human being as a character, um, would try and make deals and gain knowledge from literally every super powerful creature they met and would end up in so much trouble. Like, you read like the Wheel of Time, like Padan Fane, this guy who made deals and eventually just ended up so indebted to the Dark One that that's Katra. He would have so many deals with people that like he has nothing anymore.
And that's why I gave the stone to Beowulf. Because I knew Ketra wouldn't hold on to it as for as long as he could.
We're not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, the stone was perfect. Yeah, as soon as it was there, he was like, yeah, it wants information, so we should give it to it and see what it's got. And then we got it, and he was like, but we could get more. And we were like, no, that's not how this works. That's how you die. But that's all the questions I had for you guys. Thank you again for coming. But I do, at the end, like to open it up in case either of you want to, ask me questions or each other. Obviously, Chad, if you guys have any questions, you can pop in at any time. I try to pay attention. But if you guys have been holding anything back, he's makes smart choices.
Steve,
Yeah.
we're not saying that he makes dumb choices. We're just saying if Ketra had the stone, he's going to milk it for all he can.
And end up giving up his entire soul to this thing.
Yeah.
Like, he has exactly what Katra wants, which is why Katra would be the most susceptible to the stone, because he has all this untold amounts of knowledge that Katra wants. And from what I've been hearing about Katra for a long time, playing his Sif and all that, was Katra was that guy that you were seeing on the ads on YouTube for a while. Knowledge. I got knowledge. Here's my Lambo, and here's my library bookshelf right behind it.
I entirely understand as an individual that rupturing your group, everything you have said is that Katra's #1 goal is to acquire and hoard magic items. So you can tell us we're all wrong about him, but everything you've said and done so far says we're not. And making friends. He always wants friends. That I will give him that.
He definitely does.
Friends that won't cry.
That won't cry.
I still can't believe the first night we're back in Waterdeep, and Ketra goes to talk to somebody. He just makes them cry. I was like, what happened?
No, that's been a thing for a long time with Katra.
Has it? Does he just make
he
everybody...
He did it when we left the Sunless Citadel to the people whose kids we found their bodies, remember? And he was like, yeah, they're dead. Blah. I don't remember how. It wasn't intentional. But there was the way he said something, and like they all like the like leader of the town or this noble family whose kids had gone down into the Citadel and were dead just started crying. And then we tried to milk more from the City Lord. Hey, can you give us this? How about this? How about this? No? Alright, we wore out our welcome, we'll leave. It wasn't just him, we all did it. Elzan was very brusque too.
It's always been his thing, is his flaw of making people cry.
But yeah, any questions any of you guys have, feel free.
I do, continuing on the thing with the planet with Sif, I was gonna go the multi-class fighter all the way to 11, so that way he'd have 3 hits, the 3-hit multi-attack, and again all the ASI and all the features. And what comes to mind now is with the release of Tasha's, he actually could have taken Meta Magic Adept as a feature in one of those, and
Quicken once a day.
Yep. I probably could have even done that on the last one, but instead I gave him another a fighting style, so now I can fight.
Those Tasha's feats were amazing. They erased so much of the need to multi-class, and made character creation and progression so much more custom. Being able to take a warlock invocation, one of those really cool, unique things that you're like, yeah, I want to play this character, but I really wish they could just melt into darkness. Cool, you can now take that invocation that lets you just turn invisible in darkness when you're not moving.
While also not making
With
it too bad by saying if it has a prerequisite, then
Yeah.
you cannot take it. You have to take the warlock class in order to get it.
You can't take anything that says you need to be a 9th level warlock unless you are a 9th level warlock. Or
think
if
it's
Pact
also-
of the Blade, you have to actually be Pact of the Blade, etc.
It might not be rules as intended, but I think based on rules as written, it's if it has a prerequisite in general. So ones that require you to need a certain amount of stat or something may also be unable to be used as unless you're a warlock.
Invocations, I don't think have those stats. They have like you have to know this spell or some kind of curse. Like you can't take any of the hex curse ones because you have no hex curse unless you are a level in warlock and have either Hexblade's curse or the hex spell.
All the ones that would have to do with Eldritch Blast, you can't take unless you're in the warlock. Even though you could take a warlock, Eldritch
Magic
Blast
Initiate,
with
warlock.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Jeleneth, what is your if you had a perfect for exactly what you want it to be, what is level 20 Jeleneth? Pure Ranger and multi-class into something a little bit?
So, optimizing wise, it would have to be Pure Ranger in order for that animal companion to really get effective. Because because we're working, so Jeleneth is working on the revised Beastmaster class.
Yep.
Because originally Beastmaster was very underwhelming in the original player handbook. So the revised version gave way more buff to what the animal companion is. So at level, so like when you get higher, let me check real quick. So right now, so at 7th level that we hit, Chamali got beast defense, which means as long as my companion can see me, Chamali has advantage on all saving throws. All saving throws, which is wild at 7th level. And Chamali also gets my proficiency bonus. So, like Chamali only has like I think 1 proficient saving throw, but the fact that he gets my +5 on top of them, plus advantage on all of them.
You're right. I actually forget, and I would like to change my question. So what are we looking at level 20 Chamali with assistant Jeleneth?
So
because I do know that this revised class can sometimes lead to some very murderous animals. I would like to see us put adamantium armor on Chamali, so he can't suffer critical hits.
That could be a thing that happens. The Beast Conclave is really all about that companion bond. So like when we hit level 11, Chamali's going to get Storm of Claws and Fangs. So Chamali can take a melee attack action against all creatures that he's up against within 5 feet. So if he's surrounded by like 4 people, Chamali can take an attack at all 4 people.
Right.
Because the Ranger lost its multi-attack with the companion bond. But that multi-attack is essentially being given to the companion.
Yeah.
And then at 15, Chamali gets superior beast defense. So whenever an attacker attacks my companion and hits with an attack, it can use its reaction to have the damage against it. So it essentially gets
uncanny dodge.
Uncanny dodge at level 15. So like at least it has to be level 15 in order for it to really work well, because the Beast Enclave is really all about that companion.
Level 15
and if the companion
Beastmaster 5 fighter, so that you have extra attack too.
Maybe extra attack. Because the way I've set, so Jeleneth is set with the double-bladed scimitar.
Yeah.
And so there's a feature that Kyle allowed me to have when I leveled up to level 4. No, when I started out was the Revenant Blade feature.
Yeah.
That allowed me to use my bonus action to attack with the other end of the blade.
Right.
Because before, when I originally hit was just that Guardian, I had multi-attack plus the bonus attack to do that third attack. But now I only have that one attack and then the bonus action attack if I'm in range.
Right.
Um, so maybe if I really want to get that extra additional attack back,
Yeah.
but truthfully, Chamali should be my big damage heavy hitter,
Right.
and then my action should be essentially using abilities to
Cure wounds, any
cure
kind
wounds
of
or like manage the field.
entangle. Yeah.
Man, I miss Entangle. Entangle was one of the best spells ever.
It's
Like
still a spell.
I can't get it anymore.
Oh,
Entangle
is
is
it
not a
not
ranger
range?
spell.
That's wild.
It's a druid spell.
Yeah.
But I got it because I was a guardian, primeval guardian ranger before. But now I have the spike field thing, whatever it's called, so I can at least
Spike
do that.
growth.
Yeah, spike growth, so I can at least like make difficult terrain.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to hold down people anymore, but like I can
And
at least
it deals
still have.
damage on top of being difficult terrain.
Yeah, but the other one held people down and prevented them
Yeah.
from moving. This one just gives you difficult terrain and damage, but like it's still something a little bit more to control the field a bit. So like being able to use my turn as a way to kind of assess the situation, sit back more, and really kind of manage the field a bit more, and letting Chamali just kind of go all out. Is that's been pretty good. So maybe if I really want that additional attack action and the action surge, maybe fighter, but I'll probably just stick as ranger. There is a couple spells that I'm looking at for a higher level ranger. Actually, at level 9, we get our third spell slot because I'm half caster, like Sif. And I talked to Kyle about this earlier. Like, I kind of want to get summon forest creatures or summon creatures. And I specifically asked Kyle about this because like the spell specifically says looking at challenge rating 2, challenge rating 1, and challenge rating 1/2. And I'm like, or no, challenge rating 1, challenge rating 1/2, challenge rating 1/4. And I'm like, Kyle, can I go to an even lower challenge rating if I wanted to? And he's like, yeah, sure. So the spell works as 1 challenge rating 1 creature, 2 challenge half creature, or 4 quarter challenge creatures. And I'm like, if I go to 8th challenge creature, that means I should be able to summon 8 creatures. So can I just summon like 8 flying snakes?
It's like the and here's the difference. I think it's like the summon fey creatures spell or whatever that people always talk about, and they're like, yeah, they talk about these different things, but like at that CR you can just summon 8 pixies that can literally just cast invisibility at will and just
Except for I won't get that. It's woodland creatures, and so like I'm like I can summon 8 flying snakes. They have a movement speed of I think 40. They can sit in your square because they're that small. Their damage is only 2. Like their bite, if they hit, is 2 damage, but they also do like 16 poison damage.
Yeah.
And as someone who just came from a game where we whittled something down with a lot of 1, 2, and 3 damage spell attacks for a while there.
Yeah.
It adds up after a while.
It adds up real fast. Yeah. So like I'm like I can create perfect diversion. I can control the field a bit more if I just summon like 8 creatures out of the blue. So like I have like a list of creatures that I would summon or that Jelena would know or understand that creatures exist. But like some of the creatures I can summon in this is pretty wild. So like I can summon a warhorse. I can summon another kind of. I can summon 3 different kind of horses.
Who needs summon steed when you just take summon? That is interesting. Would you consider a warhorse a woodland creature? I know that like raw the spell says beasts, I assume, but like I could imagine like a horse, like a wild stallion, but a warhorse feels like that's trained for war.
Maybe yes or no. I mean, it's something we'll have to work with Kyle, but like the fact that I can just summon a shit ton of horses.
Who needs summon steed when I can summon like 4 horses and 4 people have rides now?
Yeah, or just have 4 horses trample things over in the middle of a combat. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to getting 3rd level spell slots because once I can summon woodland beings, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be fun.
Oh man.
Oh.
That's actually why I was the other option was actually was sticking to the full paladin for Sif because at 13 when you get the 4th level spells I'll get access to Find Greater Steed. And here, let me summon a Rhino. Let me summon a Pegasus. Let me
Plus, there are.
summon there are a lot of good options on Find
Yeah.
Greater Steed and a lot of good 4th level spells plus maxing out being able to do my max smite damage would be nice.
I mean, there was a specific spell. Hang on.
You talking, what is it, Zephyr Strike or whatever?
No, there was a specific spell that that rangers get where like they plant 4 arrows into the ground.
Oh,
And it creates a
it's like
protective
cordon
barrier.
of arrows.
Yeah, so like if anybody passes the barrier, the arrows just lift up and hits them.
It's a saving throw, yeah. In each creature that enters it or something triggers one of them, so there's 4.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can just control more of the field, guys. This is what this is all about. There's also a 5th level spell called Wrath of Nature that's just wild. I can animate trees and rocks and grasses.
Yeah.
So I at least want to be able to get 2 5th level spells, I think, because there are, I think, some pretty cool spells there that'd be good, especially like Tree Stride.
Yeah.
Tree Stride would be good, but just like there's some level higher level spells that just be fun to have. But yeah, I cannot
we
wait.
talk about this and we're all gonna be devastated when we actually TPK and Dickus and we're like, well guys, I guess we need a new campaign now.
Like there are other 3rd level spells that are pretty good for what we need, but like I instantly just want conjure animals instantly. Like there's water walk and there's wind wall and stuff like that I can learn, but like I don't care. I want to summon animals. I want a horde of raccoons to just show up and just like fuck around with people for a while. So yeah, so probably at least to 5th level spells. Probably at least to 15 for sure for Chamali or whoever the companion is. If like I'm hoping Chamali survives. Chamali's been great, especially in that big Growlhund villa. Like I think Chamali was the big damage dealer in that fight.
Yeah,
because
because
wild.
Kovash, Dicketh, half the party was just running through the house the whole time, not seeing anyone.
Yeah. And it was like, I have to take this opportunity. There's 2 people lined up perfectly. That lightning bolt just
That just makes me think of old Drow House Wars in the Dark Elf trilogy, where like Drizzt would turn a corner and it'd be just him, and someone would throw a lightning bolt, and I'm like, there's like 1 or 2 people. Why are you burning a lightning bolt on that? What are you doing?
They're perfectly in a line. Like, what else am I gonna do? For someone who doesn't have multiple attacks, like this is what you do. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'll think about maybe multi-classing. I've always been a fan of like I said before. I've always been a fan of half casters. So like the Arcane Knight or the Eldritch Thief. It's always been fun.
What's your, if I may ask, what's your strength and charisma?
Charisma is too low.
Damn. So I was gonna say, imagine Jelenith the paladin, the double scimitar hit.
Just strength is 14, so I could do that end, but I think my charisma is like 7. Hang on,
That means that Barbarian might be on the table for Jelenith, though.
Charisma is 7, yeah.
So after nearly lightning bolting Drizzt, is Jelenith literally just gonna become a Drizzt clone?
No.
Well, I mean, you've already started down that road.
Yeah,
You're
you
a
already have a
Beastmaster.
Panther companion, and you use a Scimitar, and you're an elf. You're white Drizzt.
Well, no,
Kevin.
Drizzt is.
Actually,
doesn't he?
Valinor elves are actually dark-skinned.
Okay.
Because
You're
because
not
Valinor
helping your
is-
case. You're
Valinor
literally
is the large
Drizzt.
desert area, so
You're not helping
I'm
your
actually-
case, Drizzt.
Yeah. Fine,
But no,
fine.
it'll
No
be-
wonder you tried to thunderbolt him. The person who I'm trying to mimic.
No, I will not be Drizzt because Jelenith has an overarching mission compared to what Drizzt does. Drizzt just kind of goes around doing whatever he wants.
I was gonna say,
has a
Drizzt-
mission that drives her.
Drizzt just wants to chill with his friends, and then Cringe Shinobon shows up. He's like, well, shit, I guess I gotta go kill this demon.
Yeah. I'm surprised. No, I'm not surprised. Drizzt kind of seems like the person. Like, I'm surprised Drizzt hasn't tried to, like, revive his wife.
I mean, he has before.
No. She got reborn.
Oh.
She got reincarnated. Drizzt didn't do that. She got reincarnated as another hero within the realm.
Oh. I mean, he tried to bring Wolfgar back.
Yep.
And that went swimmingly when he did.
Yeah.
But anything,
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else.
no questions from you, Kev. Anything else from you, Tier?
I'm good.
Is anyone signed into the new Platinum Content Twitch to see who's live to raid? I can always raid someone I know, but my people might not be TTRPG.
Well, I am not
and
signed
I'd
into
rather-
new platinum content, unfortunately, so I
Yeah,
cannot.
that's always my situation, and I know we'd like to try to raid other TTRPG streamers if we can, but I don't have those on mine.
Let's see.
Like, I can do the raid. I was gonna say, otherwise, I do have someone we can raid. They're playing Subnautica.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Who do we got?
I was gonna say, it is a Monday night, but I feel like Haven is usually live. I think that's DM Studios, but we did them yesterday.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like I said, I can always read Russian. He's doing Subnautica, or I've got people. I just didn't know if there was any tabletop people. But regardless, thank you anyone in chat who came up. You guys all make this channel and stream worthwhile for what we do. We hope you will tune in the rest of the week for the rest of our streams. I think Phoenix is in chat. He can confirm, but I think he said he's planning more Minecraft tomorrow.
Oh, Weave is on right now. We could try to raid Weave,
I
but
don't know who that is.
they are a tabletop group out of England. I'm trying to remember correctly. I was following them a while back. They do a lot of actual plays and stuff like that. So, but
No, Russian is doing Subnautica 1. He was trying to clear his infection or something because he said he's had the game for forever and it's been bugging him that he hasn't actually finished the story. And then, what's it called? Dan Can and I believe, are back with Zane on Wednesday for D&D. Bloodthirsty Thursday, I believe, is happening this week. I know it might have got missed last week with Thanksgiving and everything. As well as, I believe I heard that Painting with the PCs is back for its second episode on Friday, so make sure you guys stop by for that. And the final of our 3-act binge, catch-up, whatever you want to call it, Dickus is on Sunday, so make sure you guys stop by. We usually go live between noon and 12:30 on Sundays for Dickus, so you can come and see what happens next time as we try to find the vault with 5 million dragons or 500, I don't remember.
500,000.
That's what I thought, but at different points I feel like even the DM has said 5 million now, and I don't really know or care in character as Kovash, so but please stick around for the raid. We're gonna raid someone to raid Weave. Are we doing Weave? Are they doing tabletops or are they doing something else?
Yeah, they do tabletops. That's the whole thing, is they do tabletops.
Then we'll stick with tabletops because that's what we do.
How do I raid from within
I mean,
the...
just tell me the name. I've got it.
Oh, they're Weave the Tail.
Just
All one word.
all one word, no caps.
Yep.
You can do it from OBS. Also, you can just do it in Twitch chat.
I was in Twitch chat and I couldn't figure out... I was in the Twitch chat mod and I couldn't figure out how to do it.
You don't have to be in his mod. As long as you're in an account that is modded, just / raid space the name.
Okay.
Yep. I could have done it from my phone if I wanted. and we raided. I didn't do much of a outro during the raid. I did it all before while we were figuring out who to raid. That's weird. Streamlabs didn't update with their image, but this did.
All right. I'm going to go have dinner now. It's
All right.
probably super cold. So